If you don't know, the interview is somebody that I do follow, so I'll show you after he is done. So, first 3D mapping maneuvers and the quote unquote the last 3 hours before the live stream. It says hello there. Can we get a honest opinion? Can we get your feelings towards the entire year and looking back on it till now? Mr. Two says, going back to it now, I sincerely believe that this was the hardest and the roughest year that we've ever experienced. I've also looked at back with Mr. Takeuchi as well, but season two, part two, episode six, aka LB6, especially the quote unquote the 02 part. So from here on out, whenever they say section six, they mean LB, right? So they'll stop saying part two, section six. So whenever they say section, please assume that it's automatically LB. That'll be on out for all the LB2 sections from here on out. So anything that it revolves around LB6, starting it from there, um, we put ourselves a standard to have a very long story from here on out, and because of that, it was very difficult to make a ground up for LB7. However, during LB7, we went on a completely different approach, and the struggles there were different as well. It was very interesting gimmick of the world when stating the stage of this area. So it's definitely because of the LB7 circumstances, you can definitely say that the new hardship came beforehand. And that is quite correct. How to move it properly. How is it connected to the surface? How are things X, Y, and Z? Not Mr. Nasu's world drawings and its gimmicks and making it into shape in its physical form in game was the hardest thing of all. Last but not least, the three-letter spoiler word would come up and the map changes. And how we could implement such a change and whatnot, and topics of such. And how we can perceive it to both audiences and the players in both a visually pleasing dilemma and how effective it could be. And so we needed to fight against Nasu and pit against Nasu in order to make sure that it is working accordingly as intended and make sure it fits naturally into the story. And that took definitely abundant slash most of our time. So this is as a result. This was the first time you all have worked on a 3D mapping sequence on a story gimmick, correct? It says yes. The map team definitely did their all and progressed this. Up in CD kicking shit up. One of our lucky feature was that the FGO's mapping group, some of the teammates had a little bit of prior experience to 3D modifying things, and because of that, yeah, definitely helped us when it came to working on this little project. And especially the later half, a certain enemy does some next level things on the map. So at the same time, that portion was difficult as well. Trying to figure things out that we've never really experienced or done to learn it in short amount of time and compress it into a result was very new but struggling as well. So we had many struggles and learned something new a lot to create something of this um, quality. It's just because of the sequence of the events and the rough work that it took all of us in total. We constantly was running the crew to the point of exhaustions, and as you already noticed, from January and onwards, all the staffs were quite tired, but we made it through. It says yes. Thank you very much for your hard work. Is this why the live stream was delayed for about roughly 3 hours? いやこの配信が3時間延長になったのは、そういうための一せめぎがあったのが原因でしょう。直前前、予想外の同章が見つかってしまい、マスターデータを収録していたんです。So essentially, yeah. So that's why, yeah, the live stream took about 3 hours and 3 hours extended delay. Then the seven LB2 part two, LB7 part two came along. So that was all the problematic experience. Yes, unfortunately, we've witnessed right before a live stream an unforeseen motive and data error, and so master data needed to be repaired in order for this to not bork the entire update. The master, yeah, the master data and the master project side was essentially a finalization of overall things collected and sewing it, well, essentially, yeah, creating it together to make such a unit. So we got hit with the overall scheduling. 開発全体のスケジュールに幸せを寄せ、もろに受けまして、リリース直前前に QA から休告が上がってしまう状態でした。So it's just because the scheduling was not really smooth, and because of that, the orders of events has occurred, and the Q&A and the problem has dropped right before the release of the live stream. So therefore, 3 hours, you say. So it says, yeah, it was a chaos of 3 hours worth, wasn't it? And be like, yes. However, it was all due to the master squad, aka the master areas. They're doing their very best. So yeah, because if you don't know, 3 hours later, right, the LB7 occurred. Um, And because of this, there was a live stream 3 hours ago, and they delayed it about an hour, about 2 hours, and then they delayed it an additional hour. So this is kind of the experience that we had during LB7 Part 2 stream. So it says, yeah, because of Mr. Two specifically says because of the Master Squad, right, the Master area, essentially the end runners that will fix the programming, their efforts at hand that we were able to provide it during the live stream. We were until the release date was about to occur. During the actual live stream, we were listening through our headset that if it's possible or not, but I wanted to make sure that it was at the very last moment that we were able to release it. But unfortunately, the call was that it could not be due to the unsolvable problem, and the flip flop between the communication of can release and cannot release occurred. So therefore, we ended up saying undated, right? Undefined, uncertain as a report, as a final production. But right when the live stream ended, we've got a call that says it is good to go. And that is the last call that we've gotten before the cancellation. And so I sincerely would like to apologize that each and individual timing for these users especially was terribly, horrendously awful for the LB7 Part 2 to come in live and created a huge confusion. However, it says in the very end, we got the news and it was a positive one. We were willing to take the flack for this wishy washy circumstances, and now that we've found the results, we released LB7 immediately as we could have. So yeah, because if you don't know, around the LB7 time, things got a little shady. Live stream was about an hour delayed, and we were just wondering what the fuck's happening. Apparently, yeah, Mr. Two was trying to fight if it's available, not available. And when they had to make a clean call because game news happened, they made it undefined. But apparently, right when the live stream ended, they said they were ready to exert it, aka push the updates X, Y, and Z. So they released it right away, knowing the inconsistencies and the flack that they were going to get because of it. Is it due to the fact of the three-letter wording fight has the game gotten so heavy or problematic, or was it perhaps the 3D that was the problem at hand? It says, I'm so sorry when it comes to this. As I have stated before, we've just eaten a unexpected allocation error, essentially.最も最適化できそうな部分があったのですが、順次の決断でリリースを優先することを決めました。リリース後の最適や複合を解消しましつつ、荷物を減らす作業を進めたことで、2週間ほどでやっと落ち着いたという状態になります。It says that we sincerely apologize as as we have stated before, we had allocation and resource management error. There were some things that we wanted to fix, and quote unquote, we would have fixed it cleanly if necessary, taken time. However, we've decided we will be releasing it as a priority. Yeah, with the quote unquote vexing, right? Kuku no ketsudan de. Kuto no ketsudan de. So they've decided to release as a priority and instead of fixing it at most, right? However, after we released it, we did some editings and we made sure that unexpected errors were fixed on the spots and smoothing of the entire operation were to be available. 2 weeks work, around 2 weeks worth of efforts, we were able to lessen our blow and lessen our load and make LB7 more smoothly and accurately as best as possible. So yeah, that's where I think like Mash's upgrade should have been implemented. They added that 2 weeks later. Some of the voicings got smoothed out. Some of the bugs got tuned in. It says, I remember back in the day, those things happened quite a lot and often. I felt like it was quite nostalgic in some perspective, says the interviewer, right? Mr. Two says, yeah, so it's essentially FGO is meant to be played far and wide in order to not increase the spec amount that can be properly handled in an instant and update things accordingly and smoothingly. And we did not we did not preferring having unneeded load, right, burden upon us. But we understood this on top of this. 最後の 部分で締め切れなかったと反省しております。But yeah, we weren't able to quote unquote finish it off with a good bang was one of our regrets for sure. But Mr. 2 prioritizes you guys enjoying LB 7.2 over the kind of like these minor bugs that you kind of saw and whatnot. It says we understood that we wanted to make it less crazy and less burdening, but it was essentially the last quote unquote lost belt, so they wanted to work on that. It says, by the way, who came up with the idea of 3D mapping? Whose idea was that in the first place? Mictoran, in actuality, it needed to be seen and shown in 3D or the effect would be negated. That's kind of the reason why it looks the way it is. So therefore, if the story and the location is correct, we would like to challenge it again. So it's essentially Mictora needed to be 3D in order for it to work. So that's why they did the 3D mapping sequence. All right, so enough about FGO LB7 Mictoran's shenanigan updates and live streams and the 3D mapping sequences. New system, class score, in order to prepare for the final battle, right? 最終決戦の準備の手段 right 階段準備高校へ so essentially class score is essentially the preparation for the final battle. It says working this industry for 8 years, please tell us specifically which area that you have inserted your energy the most so far. It says, as always, the big project that was LB7, of course, simultaneously the Ordeal Call prologue at the same time. The implementation of class score was one of our biggest insertion and efforts that we've done so far. So please tell me, why did you make class score? What intentions did you had in order to create this functionality? Class score was essentially to prepare everybody from the quote unquote class score is essentially one of the preparation for the final battles that will begin when the story comes to its conclusion at its end part. Not just leveling up servants max level and not letting servants max level, aka 100 and above, right? It says Master himself needed to upgrade in an interesting way. So therefore, by upgrading Master's specific things, we were able to increase Servant's overall ability and use capability. Is the necessity is what we thought. サーバントのレベルの現状解放でなく、マスター自身が課題を解決して。So yeah, Master himself solves problems on his own and answers his own problem and increase the abilities of servants and whatnot. そういった背景もあり、タイムーンさんと会議を終えたままで実行しました。It says, yeah, with that into our implementation and aka as a background, we discussed and conversated with Mr. Type Moon and we were able to materialize it. Where's my coffee? So it says, so this must be for the current protagonist. There may be some fights that are very difficult, if not impossible, to win scenarios. You have sequences of the events that allow you to alleviate more burden, if not pain, of impossible fights. And be like, yes. But sometimes even that might just not be enough. So therefore, while exploring the quote unquote white papered Earth, aka bleachified Earth, adventuring it, figuring out the problems with the extra class, and increase the master's functionality and preparing to continue moving forward. We wanted to use that stance, and that is how the gameplay will work out. In RPG circumstances, we would say were you using a ship or an airplane and transporting the protagonist into a world tour of some sort, going into different worlds and whatnot, and preparing for the final battle that is up ahead us. Is the image, I suppose, is the better to picture. So when was class core prepared for? When did you guys start preparing for the class core gimmick? We were essentially preparing the class score gimmick rightfully around the same time when LB7 was going to be implemented. So, roughly around last year, beginning of the year. So, essentially at 2022. 2024, excuse me. No, yeah, 2022. 2022, 2021, like December esque, right? It says, however, until completion, it was quite the rough work as well. We were thinking about how would FGO have these worldview concept and how we put these system ins. What kind of concept do we need to implement? And how can we maneuver and control it to the player's will? What kind of design we wanted? And thinking those, yeah, talking about it, and in order to make it more imaged and solidified of what we really wanted to do, took about 3 months plus. We had quite the designer patterns, and we had different prototypes yeah, shown as images to kind of come up with this concept. So the interview goes, "Oh, I see. So the balance sequence was already implemented and thinking of so, and you guys were thinking what needs to be done, and this requires a lot of thinking, isn't it?" Yes, we were talking about like at max how much parameter will increase in each of the class, what around how long it would take if you min max it versus not min maxing it. Those are the parts that we definitely struggled at. Kind of the reason why that we have implemented that 1 for 3 storm pod sequence.いや、ストームボートを1つ3つ運ぶと決められたのは後の方だったので、成長線をどう設定するかは特に時間をかけて話しました。Oh, so essentially, storm pods were made after the entire sequence was done. So we wanted to know the max growth, the max speed, and the growth line and the setups were talked about and discussed for a very long time. So storm pods apparently was not made with class scores. Storm pod was made after everything was over. So can we get a rough estimate of how long will it take if you minimize the yeah, if you maximize the efforts for each class? Did you yeah, can you give us the rough estimate of a possibility that you could pull off of? It says I can't give you the specific details any longer due to the implementation of the pods, but it is not something that you can finish in a couple of weeks or even couple of months. It says personally, some people might try to spread their class scores evenly, but some would, personally and other humans and other, it's essentially saying it varies between people. It varies between people that some would spread it in overall classes, and but Mr. Chu is saying that specifically, personally, my feature is that recommend pointing a class and concentrating a class and specializing in it might be a better choice at the moment. It says even though we say these circumstances of possibilities, the people who's standing in the front lines and the people who've been already caught up and waiting for more stories are always breaking our expectations, and they're still continuing it with insane speed. So that's kind of the that's kind of the crazy part. Lol, right? Laughs. So essentially, Mr. Two is saying that class scores should not be finished in a week, should not be finished in a month. But because we're min maxing, right? Min maxing 3 storm pods a day. He's being surprised at the speed that we're kind of clearing each scores. So it says in order to do a free quest around the bleachified Earth, challenging it requires storm pods. I heard, this one has a daily retrieval, and for some reason, there's a maximum retrievability. If there's anything reason why we use the storm pods and why we are limited at the same time, why must we also use AP on top of it all? It says, of course, AP kind of wise, we wanted to make sure that it's still implemented as a quest play, so it was a naturally to add AP onto its structure. When it comes to storm pods, クエストを担当したご褒美として活動してほしい思いがありました。クエストは。Okay. So essentially, that Storm Pod wise, we wanted to use as a reward and happy little quest. After all, the Storm Pod quests essentially are delicious quests on top of any other free quest that you can acquire, which is kind of true. Storm Pod, we wanted we wanted all of you to enjoy the Bleachification Earth quest as a reward kind of gimmick. Because the Bleachified Earth's quest is essentially a quote unquote delicious quest above all else. If we did not have limitations and let the frontline players farm it infinitely, we would create an unfortunate gap between the veterans and the new players and those who did not reach the Bleachification Earth quest. Gap would significantly increase. So, and we also was afraid that because if we were to put it into infinity, we would tire out the players, and we were worrying about a possible burnout for the veteran side if not unchecked. It says in the very earlier years, we still had a system called BP. BP was definitely an interesting gimmick that did not lose AP structures and was able to challenge special quests on top of that. Um, did you not think of using BP? Did you not think of using the BP structure instead of coming up with the Storm Pod gimmicks? Interesting. It's kind of, I don't like that, but I guess he has a point in a way. But I think that should not be a veteran's problem. The reason why we made a storm pod, the reason why we made it a storm pod sequence event was we had an aim goal for the circumstances. Specifically, daily storm pod is distributed about 3 times. This this kind of makes users forcefully or wanting to use the 3 pods immediately. And so, on top of that, if you create a circumstances that allows not AP to be used, the unused AP will be turned into a bronze, aka blue apples, or you have to use APs on other quests in order for you to spin down your AP. That, in actuality, will cause more burdens on the user base. So we thought that this was the right idea. And Mr. Two is right in a way. Essentially, Mr. Two, essentially, the reason why he made a storm pod and AP fatigue was to make it so that the veteran players don't get burdened more, which I think that's kind of Mr. Two's way is understandable, right? Because Mr. Two specifically states that he didn't want more additional burdens for user base to go through in a daily basis. But in my opinion, I think they should have kept it in a BP system where we didn't lose AP so we can focus on other farming sequences, right? We just couldn't farm the delicious node that was bleachified earth. We could farm embers. We could farm other mats. We could farm statues, for God's sakes. Anyway. Of course, when we had BP, there was quite a lot of things we had to do in a day. Almost twice as much back in the day, so sure, it's understandable. So that's why we went for the optimization of both losing pods and AP. 逆に AP が必要なイベント中は回復アイテムの収集を多めに振ってるので、後ろ回りつつイベントも回したい人はひとまず配布される種をいただけると思います。Oh, interesting. In order to implement this, when we need AP required events, we've loaded additional healing item as a reward in the event. So if you want to do an event and want to run the bleachification of the earth, please use the apple that is given to you during the events to do what's necessary. So essentially, Mr. Two answered our question, what we are going to do during the event right here. Mr. Two says, don't worry. Events that are to come will have more apples provided, so you can munch on those apples, so you can do the bleachification earth, so you can get the storm pods, storm pods capped, controlled, right? So yeah, this specifically explains what they are going to do during events. So they're not going to freeze our storm pods, but we now have additional healing items of fruits added to the inventory. So we'll be using those to run with it. Got it. I've noticed that a lot of the free quests of the Bleachification of the Earth's reward, depending on your location, changes significantly of the reward that we provide. Is there any reason for that? Yes, we adjusted with the difficulty of the mat resources and the lupification, and depending on what master wants, desire changes from varies person to person. Some master would just want to delete. Some master would want to just use the. In order for each master to find their ideal quest, we essentially distributed the rewards accordingly and balanced it and spread it all around. It says, I must say though, there are some quests that kind of is reward kind of is lackluster. It says those quests relies on essentially quickly speed. Yeah, those quests are more rely on efficiency more than difficulty or reward balance. Depending on the master, if the master wanted an easy quest to just dispense the storm pods, we made some quests that are easy to dispense. Storm pods. Of course, we made sure that the balance is equated to the reward, and the adjustments were made in order for the rewards to be compensated on the difficulty of the each node. Additionally, what about the more free quest? Are we getting any of those? And have you implemented or thought of that? Of course, is this going to happen during the So 2? The second part of the story will be getting more free quest. What kind of differentiations and realities are we can look so far in the future? It says ordeal call. It's just not going to be that. Ordeal call is a big turning point in all of us. So therefore, um, during each campaign of Sosho, and there are some couple timings outside of that variant. We're planning on few months variants to add additional free quest and challenge quest is our plan and order. Of course, after the 8th anniversary, we will have a timing that probably is not settled yet. We'll be able to report and give more news that is to come. So please be expected. So that's really nice. So we're gonna get more free quests, that's confirmed. Simultaneously, we're gonna get more challenge quests, so that's confirmed. Free quest and challenge quest for the ordeal call story, right? Free story after 8th anniversary in about so time yeah, so kunai timing. So it's essentially after the anniversary ends, it's not gonna be far off. We get additional free quest and challenge quest. So please be expected of it. So we can expect more ordeal call free quest that requires storm pods and challenge quest that is to come. ところで地球はもっと自由に回転できたりはしないのでしょうか It says, by the way, is there any more easier way to maneuver bleachification of the Earth more easily, like rotation wise? So it's asking. So the interviewer is asking, can we rotate the Earth more freely? It says we'll think about it, right? We'll definitely think about it. Parentheses lol. Adjusting automatic assortion, yeah, automatic teammate creations, and system changes and plans for the future. Plans for that in the future. 自動システムは少しずつ解消予定。システム周りの今後の展開。So yeah, Auto picking is planned to be adjusted and fixed year by year, aka it'll be fixed little by little. Talking about the systems and the future directive. It says in this 1 year, talking about event exclusive. What was the challenge that you tried to change and make it more entertaining? One of them, of course, was the quote unquote Karakuri Iria's castles, right? AKA the Windstorm, right? The Windstorm Karakuri Ilia castles challenge quest stage. A lot of the challenge quest stage was very yeah, a lot of the challenge quests these days were very easy. Those very difficult type quests was able to be done through servants. Yeah, was able to be done through servants, variety and quality amount of servants, and those people who had efficiently amount of servants was able to clear it so easily. And sometimes it took too long. Sometimes it took way too long than necessary, and the alignment, yeah, alignment with the box event, aka Lotto event, was something that came up as a problem to us, and we felt the concern as well. これにてついてライターさんからも意見があり、長軍氏、it says, yeah, writer, right? Essentially, the writers, the storytellers, and others also had ideas. So essentially they felt that the challenge quest was only done by a hefty amount of servants. If not, it took way too longer than needed, and the alignment with box event was a problem that we finally felt. In that perspective, the writer had some. The person who wrote the story of Ilya also had some ideas, and so when it comes to the super challenging quest stage, we changed direction a little bit and added special gimmicks. And if you were able to find the conquering gimmick and the capabilities, even the newest master was able to clear the gimmick no problem. We wanted to make sure that the challenge quest and the advance quest is going to be the quote unquote. We want to make it so that it's not difficult as advance quest, it's not as difficult as challenge quest. We're trying to make that balance occur. So essentially, from here, Mr. Two is saying that the challenge quest and advance quest, we've heard you guys, right? We've heard you that we don't want that shit during Lotto. We've heard you that some of them took whoever. We heard you. Some shit just requires tough servants. So we changed and divided, right? Divided the criteria a little bit. And because of the writer of Ilya's story gave us an idea as well that during these challenge quests we changed and optimized direction. We gave you special gimmicks, and as long as you know the gimmicks, even the new players, right? Not just the front line, aka the whales or people who the veterans, not just the veteran masters will be able to clear it. We're going to make it yeah, in the middle between super challenging quest, aka the lore quest, the challenge quest, and the advanced quest, somewhere in the middle. And we're making sure that the balance will be implemented is our goal. So speaking of advanced quest, have you thought of adjusting its difficulties? What do you think of it that? Oh, so yeah, when it comes to advanced quest, Advanced Quest is difficulty adjustments. What do you think of that? Anything that requires LB and onwards, um, yeah, anything that requires LB and onwards, we're making sure that the advanced quest and challenges quest is going to be adjusted as difficulty as possible. But in basic functionality, all the advanced quests that are basic mats are able to be cleared if you have the knowledge and the servant roster that cleared season one. That's the difficulty essentially we're making it as. Because Advanced Quest, in actuality, is a rerun, if not a quote unquote lecture of just reteaching you the FGO battle gimmicks. And essentially, a review guide is what we have authenticated for. Just like at the very beginning, we had like a tutorial quest or um, servant useful quest. These little servant yeah experiment quests of some sort of like that during back in the day. It says, "Oh, I see. So, how's it feel to be busting out super hard difficulty quest stage? And now that you released it, right? Because there was a challenge quest, and then there was a challenge, super challenge advance quest during the Ilia. It says, yeah, how did it feel? It says, what we would like for you is to find an authentic strategy and find it and enjoy that in finding it, is what we would like the player base to feel, is what I would hope. However, we did hear you guys that part of the gimmicks were very too difficult to understand or even use, is what we've heard so far. So your voices are heard, especially when it comes to like luck base. A lot of that, yeah, the luck based sequences needed to be stopped. Was a lot of the opinion at hand. However, we're going to. Oh, so they just said, fuck you, we're going to make more gimmick. No! Come on, bruh! It says, however, balancing it together with the box. I would like for you, やりたいことが、実現できたかと思います. Oh, so yeah, so this is talking about, this is still during Ilia event, right? Because the Ilia event, there still was a challenge quest, but it wasn't as hard of a challenge quest as last time. It says, however, we would like to continue on adjusting the challenge quest. Yeah, the challenge quest with the balancing of the FGO and understanding and reviewing of the FGO gimmicks and enjoy it is definitely what we would like, and we would like the equilibrium. So I think that's okay. Yeah. So Mr. Two is saying that there's probably more challenge quests during lottos, right? Those little free ticket quests, right? But they're going to make it so that it's more balanced, and it's easy enough that doesn't require you 5 million years, and it's easy enough for newer players to be able to play it if you understand the gimmick, right? So that's kind of the procedure that Mr. Two is gonna go during box events. It says yes during box event, aka lottos. During the lottos, I would like a challenge stages that does not, that does not cost too much time consumptions on doing them. Is definitely a blessing, even on my side as well. I sincerely hope that you all go for the same route that you did with the Ilia box event.たまたこれ wait はたまたこれまでの方向に戻すのが気になります. So it says, yeah, we would like for I would like for you to go for the same sequences And I'm going to be wondering what kind of functionality that you're going to be bringing back and adjusting in the further lottos. It says this is going to be a difficult one for sure. The super hard challenge quest and stages, a lot of people enjoyed it. Yeah, a lot of the people, there are words that saying people enjoyed it. So the decision on making this equal balance is going to be a difficult one at hand. 私が言うのもあれですけど、超難関度は通常コンテンツとして復活しないかななんて思っています。It says, I know it's funny that of all people, are saying this, but I think that the super hard quest that we get on events, I sincerely would want it on a daily content so we can access it on a daily. A revival is what I am thinking. Ha ha ha. So, and then the interviewer says, "I too would like, I too would hope for the difficulty challenge quest to become a daily thing or access it on a daily basis." 変化で言うと、マップの UI が消せるようになったの嬉しいところです。Wait, what? 初段階での歯ごたえが好きということもいただくのが弾むですね。私が言うのもあれですけど、湘南感度は通常コンテンツとして復活しないかななんて思っています。私も風情化を希望しています。変化で言うと、マップの UI が消せるようになったの嬉しいところです。Oh, interesting. Okay, okay. Yeah, giving charge essentially yeah, so they want challenge quest and they want challenge quest to UI. So yeah, so they're talking about how challenge quest needs to be a daily thing and essentially able to bring back the past challenge quest as contents, right? And then interviewers agree. Mr. Two wants that to happen. Specifically, if you want to change it, I love the fact that you can change the map UI and delete it. Was some of the fun things as well. We've heard from the users' voices specifically saying that we would like to see the map change with their own eyes without the UI. So we made that adjustment accordingly as well. I said, we sincerely would like for you all to witness that the map team has accumulated and did such a wonderful work. Witnessing that was an important part. I felt that as well, so I'm really glad that the map changes is a happily quote unquote happy ever after. So essentially, if you don't know, recently the map was able to take out all the events and all the quest UI was now disappears. They're talking about that, right? They're saying that the map UI was able to be deleted, able to see FGO map from season 1 all the way up to now is a wonderful update. And then yeah, it says the voice they heard your voices and the fact that you guys were able to enjoy what the map team was able to do themselves. It says we would like the past events. Yeah, we would love to have a past event where we can just see the event maps as a functionality and their UIs removed as well. It says, please don't worry, we've heard that opinions and survey as well. 受賞化コンテンツ変化で言うと週月の嬉しいところです。こちらユーザー So yeah, they changed it from the challenge quest contents from being a daily thing. And it says talk about changes, map UI, disappearing it was very fun and entertaining. And then Mr. 2 specifically says, we've heard your guys' words and we made it happen. The fact that you guys can appreciate the map team's work is also as wonderful. Then Mr. Interview specifically says, and we would like to bring the old events map back and able to see it as a functionality, right? Just able to see old maps. That itself, that'd be awesome. It says we heard you. We don't have yeah. There's not. There's some words that said we don't need a spot. ということである。適当度無償は下がるかもしれない。ただ、風景の変更はどうするかという話もあるので、そう簡単にはいかないのですか。It says, yeah, we don't need the UI spots, just having the map itself. Speaking of that, makes it easier, right? Makes it easier than the hard work that is to be explained. However, when it comes to map changes and map adjustment on certain scenarios and certain sequences during events and whatnot, is definitely going to be easier. It sounds easier said than done. You know, essentially, Mr. Two is saying that it's hard to change the background harder than you think. It says, I sincerely understand that what I have suggested is very close to crazy, right? Like very selfishly imposed wish there. But Mr. Two, if you had the power to do anything, what functionality are you willing to go for? What functionality are you looking for? It says, I would like, if possible, a craft essence adjustment functionality. In my honest opinion, my circumstances is now that I've MLB'd a craft essence, roughly around 3 of them. I was thinking what I would do from the 4th one and onwards. And when it comes to that functionality, I would like some automatic sequence to either compress or fixes my problem, is what I would like to have. I've already told this to the planner team, though. Laugh, right? So essentially, Mr. Two is saying that if he could have a functionality, he wants a craft essence automatic cleaning functionality, right? He's specifically saying that he has 3 MLB CE of he has the same MLB CE, right? 3 of them. He was thinking that what would happen to the 4th one and onwards, non-MLB ones or MLB ones and etc. etc. How you can judge that and determine that, and what sort of basic functionality way you can use to automatically either compress them or just get rid of them, right? So it says that, yeah, I sincerely hope what you have just said also gets materialized, right? Speaking of which, can I talk about the automatic team function that you've created very recently? Yeah, so they never say anything like burning. It's more like compressing, more like putting it away so it's easier to like he's saying that 最大解放した冷蔵が3枚用意できたなら4枚目以降はどうするか判断しているので、そこをなんとか基準にして自動で圧縮できるような機能があったらいいなと思うのです。Interesting. Yeah, so if you have like 3 MLB of the same thing, the 4th one, whether either gets MLB auto burned or gets fetted to a certain CE that you're targeting, that would be pretty cool. But yeah, he said that he wants that auto craft essence functionality to an extent. He's not saying auto burn. He specifically does not say burn in this sentence. So he's not talking about auto burn functionality, but more of auto compression slash auto compression slash auto sorting after like 1 or 2 MLBs. And so speaking of auto, we recently had automatic team creation. Can we get to talk about that just a little bit? It says in actuality, the auto event circumstances was a gimmick that was specifically targeted for tower event. To be perfectly honest with you, it says this is also meant for a newer player. Yeah, this is definitely targeted towards the newer player than the veteran player. Like for instance, if the newer player wants to create a Koyanskaya party and implementing a buster system looping, or essentially able to farm with a buster sequence, if the newer player was able to automatically assume that party with the servants that they have with a support Koyan, I think, in my opinion, would definitely help out. But優先したいのは一個一個の設定を自分手順ですることの苦労を減らしたいという点です。よくわからない人に向けてクラス優先のサーベントをポイントあ優先のサーベントをポンって置いてくれるのも最優先に入れようと思っています。So it says, but what we'd like to, what we'd like to prioritize to make sure that to lessen the burden of a constant party switch up, constantly over and over. This is targeted for those people who really don't understand, and those newbies, aka newer players, that at least this automatic function can do is to give a servant that is useful at that time. That is the priority that we are going for. So essentially, Mr. Two is saying that we would like to make the auto function, auto team function, pretty nice to your account. Their goal is to able to create a system within your roster with the servants you've got, right? So like if you have a support Koyan, you can create a buster system automatically with your friend, with your list, right? But they will prioritize on able to help out the newer players win an advantage, right? Kind of serve an advantage class wise. That's their priority at the moment, to make sure that you guys don't have to look through each and individual every single time the servant roster, just because we have a lot of servants, right? Roughly 375. I said, to be perfectly honest with you, the automatic system, I used it a lot in the tower event. ひとまず演習形態を埋めたいみたいな時に使ってもいいだけ、みたいな時に使っていただけたらと思います。現状、公用なものではないので、一旦パーティーのベースを作るくらいのつもりで使ってくれれば嬉しいです。So it says, yeah, please use it if you ever want to efficiently have a cost-effective circumstances, right? So it says, yeah, we're prioritizing it so that if you want to fill a party cost to its brim, that's what the automatic. And Mr. Two specifically says currently the automatic system is not a high spec gimmick. It's a pretty basic functionality. We've only made it so that it makes the base structure of the party. So if you guys just want the roster filled instantaneously and adjust it from there, even that even that is being useful at the moment of that functionality. It'd be greatly appreciated. 最初はA を固定して自動送取することができなかったのですが、今がそこを周辺されてバージョン1といったところです。It says at very first, they weren't able to add a craft essence and automatic party setup at the same time. But now we were able to at least get a couple of craft essence and able to make an automatic party statement. So currently we are version 1.0 is what I would say. And so the interviewer says, "Oh, I see. So you're going to constantly update this feature here and there." And Mr. Two answers, "Yes. For instance, we're trying to make it so that during like an event, we will able to create an auto functioning roster, right? Auto functioning roster sequence that fits the event criteria, and that's what we would like to aim towards."自動賞をした一体かな、そういや、エッセンシャルイベントで必要性に応じて自動接触をしたら、イベントでの Yeah, so like during an event, during like a necessity, you just make an auto roster to fit the event criteria is what we are trying to look for. However, um, if we were to use the functionality as a so right now Mr. 2 is we're only looking to make it so that it's easier on event sequences, right? Because their goal is to make it usable, right? Because the auto feature is not as good at the moment right now. So their goal currently is to make it very usable during events. So like automatic craft essence functioning, automatic event servant plus craft essence functioning. That's what their current goal is, right? But in actuality, if we want to use this functionality on a basic level, then we're gonna need an entire team, just like class score. So they're saying that we're aiming small first, right? We want to complete a segment and we want to make it currently a small roster because they don't want to put another entire team specifically in charge of automating, like auto changing and able to do whatnot. Because they're specifically saying if it gets too big and if auto team creation becomes a the norm, right? Or like able to use it in normal sequence, we're gonna need a whole nother team to make that to happen. It says when it comes to auto team configuration sequence, the more you think about it, the more the more you think about it, the more you have to think about it, is what you're trying to say, correct? It says, yes, there's a lot of things and a lot of improvements that we need. But first and foremost, we want to make sure that it is functionable and easier to the player base as event necessary first. And we'll take our time step by step to make it better to perfection. And we'll be walking towards that image is our best goal. It's a, speaking of new system, I've heard now there are multiple servants that changes their noble phantasm over overcharge. It says, can you tell me why did that idea pop up? Uh, Mr. Type Moon has suggested we would like a rare animation at the same time we want to mix that with overcharge. That's what the first idea came into mind, and that was the start of it all. When it comes to servants and noble phantasms, how we do it from setting wise, what kind of motion do we want, Mr. Type Moon gives us an idea and suggestions, and they would be more, but depending on the circumstances, from here on out, there might be more additional visual with overcharging. Unfortunately, we've only planned Yeah, currently our only plan was just Bima and Bima only. There wasn't a specific plan that we have for other servants. My personal opinion is that if they're going to add additional rare visual, I definitely think that overcharging gimmick is to be implemented as well. レアにするならオーバーチャージを控えめオーバーチャージを攻めてほしいという思いはあります。Yeah, so if you want to see the rare animation, I think overcharge implementation is a good idea. It says I too as well, especially that if you overcharge, you're guaranteed the rare visual might definitely make the user base happy, in my honest opinion. It says, I think so as well. Not only visually pleasing, but at the same time able to incentivize overcharging and increasing gimmick up and strengthen up might be able to push harder in that state. It says last year became a big thing. The implementation of Evocation Festival. How did this start, and how long did it take for this to start entirely? It says this all started when Ordeal Call actually started, because we wanted not only the frontline players to prepare them for the final battle that is coming to ahead of us. At the same time, we would also like new masters and returning masters and those who are still far from the end to able to catch up. And that's kind of the reason why it came to us. And that became the stepping stone for the Evocation Festival. Simultaneously, during LB7, Servant is required. It really is. A necessary required. And that also gave us a push and a reasoning to get the Evocation Festival coming in hot. So the interviewer says, I sincerely agree. During the fight, having welfare servants, it really changes the battlefield between new master and veteran master. And unfortunately, at the same time, there is no time limit. So mash that revives every so often, if used so, would be better used, better incentivized, and the power differences changes tremendously. It says, oh, by the way, in the planning setting during those battle of LB7, there was actually a timer. Lol. However, we came up to the conclusion that everybody has lives outside of FGO. Everybody has lives outside of this little amazing, little charade. So Mr. Nasu has argued that if there is a 48-hour limitation, there's going to be a guarantee that people who will not be able to clear it coming forth. Mr. Nasu specifically stated, and we argued, and that is kind of the result that came by that has no time efficiency. Oh, damn. So essentially, yeah, during the LB7 servant needed fight, there was a 48-hour timer. Thank God they took that out, huh? God damn. It says, I have a question. As a new master, I sincerely believe that the Evocations Festival servants, I think a lot of them would like to see the event story. What do you think of that? It says at the very first thought process, we wanted to give the story attached to the welfare servants that we were going to be given. However, unfortunately, manufacturing time was not able, the engineering time was not able to do it. It says, it says we implemented and incentivizes that the Evocations Festival was a adding servants as a schedule. And once all that schedule was done, it was very difficult to add story of individuality type to it. So unfortunately, that was canceled, and we implemented the servants first before the story. It says even though you stated that you want to lower the rerun amounts, and that is your new current direction, but I sincerely think that the new people that sees this servant and enjoy it for the very first time, learning their story might be a very good incentivize to make them fall in love to them even more, in my opinion. And Mr. Two agrees and says yes. But instead of rerunning the event, I sincerely would like to try a new experience and make a new experience for them. And I think that as a user base as a whole, everybody will be very happy about it. It says currently in the development team, we're able to maintain formation at the. Oh my god, yeah. So they're right here. Mr. Two is specifically saying 開発もなんとか頑張って体制を保っている状態ではあります。So they're even saying their formation currently is barely standing in this current juncture. Mr. Two specifically says, I can't give you an immediate answer. However, I can't give you an immediate answer right at this moment, so please give us a little bit more time. So, stating that the evocation servants are on a time juncture, so there is more to come. But story wise, they're not going to be doing a rerun event on these types of evocation stories, and they need more time to explain the story, the welfare stories that we're going to be getting during Evocation Festival. So they need more time. They can't give you any answers to the stories. So like Shiki's K or OG Nobu's little story, etc., etc. It says Bond craft essence. Where will it be used? The importance of bond collecting and the implementation for the future. It says last year, during the last year's interview, we specifically heard that if you raise your servants to bond 10, you'll be able to obtain this craft essence, aka the bond craft essence we're being talked about. When will we be using these bond craft essence? It says, yes, this will be a little bit, yeah, this will be a topic of the future for now. But I sincerely suggest all of you to start collecting them. It says using, yeah, because when it comes to Bondcraft Essence and try to clear nodes and events and boss fights, you really would like it to have a little bit more buff, don't you think? It says in the current moment, there's barely, if not rarely, any Bond CEs that are useful. Most of them are being sent to the second archive. And so, as a user and a player, I am a little sad that the state that they're currently in. It says, please do not worry. We are going to be making places where Bondcraft Essence will be useful in some essence. And we are preparing for that. So I can only say there is going to be a time these Bondcraft Essences will be useful. So please collect them while you can. その場合、いや、絆レースを持っていない人の差も気になるところですね。持ってないと厳しいみたいなことではなく、持っている人がより優々に進められたらという風に考えてもらえばと思います。So it says, the interviewer says, if you're saying it like that, that means that the bond craft essence people who have them and might not have them, their gap is an interesting concept. Mr. 2 specifically add, just because you don't have the Bondcraft essence, you're not going to have a rough time or a hard time. We're trying to implement things that if you do have them, you'll be able to smoothly work accordingly. Is the juncture, the incentivization that we're trying to head towards. It says, if you were compared to it during end of season 1, the final singularity of Temple of Time Solomon, the bond level gave you additional buff. How would this be implemented during this time compared to the last Bond Plus event? It says it's very difficult for me to explain it in details at this very moment, but when it comes to battle tactics, I sincerely would say it will play a significant role. What I can once again tell you is that try to make a lot of your servants bond 10 as you can. So is this why that the Bleachification Earth quest has quite the bond point implemented? It says yes. That is true. The Bleachification's Earth and other places, please farm them to get your bond skill leveled up. It says, will you be giving us other ways and methods of able to increase our bond in the future? It says that will be discussed and be told and made more about after looking at this current scenario. It says it might be a silly thing to say it like this because there's a possibility of you guys not raising it because of the way I've stated. Haha. But rotating it with your favorite servants, and I sincerely would like all of you to increase your bond with all of these servants. When it comes to bonding, when it comes to bond increase circumstances, currently we have a status that is now permanent. That if you were to put the starting members, bond increase is a permanent 20%, aka if you were to put your party starting members, and the starting member party gets an additional 20% bond. That is a new gimmick that's been told in Anniversary. If you think about it, it's like a buddy, right? The buddy system during the last year's Valentine implementation, if you were to think about it of sort. As a starting member gets additional bond. It's a very interesting place you put it there. Depending on the servant, putting them into the starting member will be very difficult. I sincerely agree. We made sure that the backside was not going to be implemented. Because if you're challenging bleachification of the earth, if you're trying your very best to do these quests and challenges onward, we really want your roster to be at its peak. And a serious roster. 練習考えても必要で出てくると思うので、このサーベントの絆を上げたいというなら、この生態みたいなことも話題になってくるかと思います。気楽にやるのであれば、一緒にどれでもいいですし、個人的に上げられるなら、ちょっと頭をひねくれてみてるくらいのイメージです。So it says if you really want a said servant to get a bond additional cleanup, it would allow the player base to make a different roster completely surrounding its concept and will not stay too much into the same old thing. And I think I think into the future, a starting member setups and other circumstances will be followed up upon. However, I would like all of you to enjoy this as leisurely as possible, and those who wants to personally create a new concept is always welcome. So yeah, essentially, Mr. Two is saying that only the starting members are gonna get 20%. So if you want a XYZ servant to be getting additional bond, that means you have to change the entire concept. You can't just stay in the rotation of the party. You can't just create you can't just do the three basic system. You might have to be more crafty, and you might have to use your brains a bit, but that's what we would like in order to incentivize bonding servants. It says, when it comes to bond CEs and bond sequences of the event, will there be additional motives? Will there be additional functions for those who have bond leveled 15 and upwards? It says, currently there will be no additional changes to the bond 15. We're currently implementing not just pushing just your one favorite servant, but we're trying to incentivize the bond up for all, if not a lot of your servants. And that is what we want first and foremost. そうすることで新たな発見も出てくると思うので、まずはまだうちは上がりきっていないサーバントの絆を深めていってください。So yeah, they're incentivizing you guys to increase the servants a lot more than just pushing one servant at the moment. They've changed directions from just pushing one servants to pushing all servants bond up. It says you'll probably see something new and find something new into the future. Leveling them up and bonding them up. So I sincerely hope those servants who have not gotten their bond up to bond up. So essentially, Mr. Two says, hey, bond things are coming soon, so bond up your servants. Okay. Is that the last page? Okay, good, good, good. 進化版ホーリーグレール戦線と王将の10周年の思い、聖杯戦争についてもお期待したいのですが、昨年のインタビューで進化版開発の話したその進歩は、it says essentially the evolved version of the Holy Grail War, its progress, and the quote unquote feelings of the 10th year. It says, last year interview, I specifically talked about Holy Grail Frontline. I would like to hear more about it. You said an evolution version was being developed, and so how's that progress going around so far? We are planning to, we're planning to show them very soon. You can even say this variant is very intriguing. It's going to be a very large type special version is being prepared at hand. Simultaneously, it's big enough story that there is a guest writer adding its own scenario added to it. So please be excited for the future a Holy Grail frontline to come. It says, last but not least, please, if you can give us about the 9th year and your implementation and your ideas. It says, these 2 years, we felt 10th year was very far away. But the fact that now we're about to head towards the 9th year, its actuality became a lot more stronger and thicker than I ever implemented. I know it's a little weird for a director to say something like that, but I'm always carrying uncertainties and burdening the uncertainties on my back and developing and crafting the functionality of this organization. However, now that we've seen this so far and the wave that we've seen, it's as wow. I'm currently thinking that FGO will make 10th year no problem. What will I do when that happens is what I started to think about. Because in the 9th year, we will celebrate it as a 10th year of playing it. 9年目はプレイ10周年ということで、実現に向けた足とたばりが一歩を踏み出しています。It says, yeah, the 9th year anniversary is technically 10th year anniversary of playing the game officially. So we're trying to make it everything as possible into reality and move our steps forward by forward to make things happen that could not happen before. It says, I bet the 10th year is going to be crazy and ridiculous. It says, before that, we're trying to make 30 million download for sure. Currently, we're 28 million download. So that threshold is already at sight. The 20 million download was quite the festivities and we went wild. So we're trying to implement a 30 million festivities that will not lose to the 20 million festivities, and we are doing our very best to prepare for that to come. We're going to try to improve upon the bleachification of the earth stuff, and I sincerely hope everybody raise your servant bonds and try to make the organization prim and proper and continue to bring it forward. And that, my children, sons and daughters, concludes the interview of Mr. Yoshki's interview of the 8th anniversary. Final thoughts. I am a little disappointed that Mr. 2 has completely ignored coin system. I've told you guys before, time and time again, that coin system will be ignored until people actually starts revolting. It's not even Mr. 2's fault. I sincerely think it is just the money grubbing side's fault. Because servant coin is the best way for them to make additional chump change, because you do have to MP6, and MP6 does absolutely jack shit. It is a little unfortunate as well that they're not implementing Bond 20 anytime soon. However, they are specifically stating something about Bond in the main interview. So just like how he said you guys to level up a lot of your servants, I think something that has to do with Bond will come in due time. So as Mr. 2 has stated, I sincerely hope you guys put your Bond efforts at work. Especially you have 2 plug suits now to level, which by the way, mine's already level 7 on the new one, so it's kind of Monka S. But you have more ways to level up your Bond, whether it's bleachification of the earth or teapots or etc. They're saying that bond up all your servant as best as you can. It's funny because Miss Crane definitely can get bonded easier this way because she can, she's essentially non-plug suited. But overall, this interview was pretty good. There are certain things that the interviewer person probably talked about that got redacted. But at the same time, we know that the Grail frontline is not dead. They are kind of thinking of the Evocation Servants welfare story somewhere, right? Auto feature is going to get improved, which is kind of good. At the same time, there is no other overcharged servant that changes picture at the moment, right? So currently, Bima is the only rare servant that will have additional animation on overcharge. But they might have more to come. They don't have any servants planned just yet. Yeah, it's I'm not gonna lie, it's a little lacklustering. Unfortunately, this is kind of oof in a weird way. But Mr. Two is specifically stating that the reason why Podstorm was implemented, so I'm really glad he answered that question. He did specifically says they're not going to be slowing down pod distribution during events to come, but there are more Apple rewards, so you could use the Apple rewards to rotate them. However, I'm not gonna lie to you, chat. If you are efficiently playing FGO, you can use about 280 AP per day. So it just means that half of your day you're gonna have to dedicate on events, and half of your day you're gonna have to dedicate on the storm pod. That's practically what it is. So in a way, you're farming for a veteran player. Your farming cut down in half. They kind of explained why they didn't want to make it AP consume no AP. They just want to not give a burden to players that have to farm more. In my honest opinion, by the time you're in LB7 and into Ordeal Call, you guys are efficiently farming your node, right? And um, those people who don't care will just not care, right? And they'll just blue apple it. So they specifically stating that blue apple is a good idea, but we don't want you to do blue apple. Mr. Two specifically states there by using the shield called user burden, right? Yeah, so more update on automatic CE, right? Automatic servant creation slash CE creation, that is going to be updated so you guys can kind of be more effective during events. So that's pretty cool. They're not planning on upgrading the auto team creation to the next level. They're trying to make it so that it's more effective and more useful. Mr. Two specifically says use it to just kind of fill party costs at the moment, or just put the servants on the table so you guys don't have to individually pick it at the moment. Box event wise, there will be more challenge quests. Mr. Two have stated that there will be more challenge stages, right, on top of challenge quest, but they'll make sure that the difficulty is adjusted. It's an easy gimmick that you all can beat, and it doesn't take time. So I think that's a really good approach. They still want to add a challenge stage in Lotto, but if they're going to put something similar, if not easier than Ilia's, I think that's perfectly fine. That's free ticket, free map for you guys. So it's a nice little rest from doing the Lotto. And they specifically says and confirmed that, yeah, the bleachification of the earth farming is a good farming area, because not gonna lie, you're guaranteed at least one drop, which is kind of lit compared to any other places where you are actually not guaranteed one drop. So it's a really nice art. They talked about class call. They are surprised that the front lines are progressing faster than ever. Talk about the crisis of the LB7, which was really nice. But other than that, Chad, unfortunately, I do have to go. The other interviews with like Mr. Two and others will be told tomorrow. I do have to go. I have to go talk to a lawyer. So hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you guys enjoyed the stream, make sure you follow me on Twitter, YouTube, and Discord. Sorry that I couldn't read chat. Sorry that I couldn't catch up. I've got a lot of things on my mind and a lot of things on the plate. So this is the only thing I can translate at this very moment. I'll see you guys tomorrow for tomorrow's live translation, which will be Mr. Takeuchi and Mr. Nasu himself about ORT, Fate Samurai Remnant, and the future that is to come. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys liked it. I'll see you guys.